Greetings. It's a blustery day out there here in fall, and we're off the road for a little while, taking a break from all the action and adventure. And just because we're off the road doesn't mean we're not keeping busy and trying to be productive and non-wasteful. And one of the ways we're doing it is this kind of weaving project that I got going on. And as you may know, I don't have a flushing toilet, and that means I have to use the wag bags, as you've seen in a previous video. And that does leave some waste in that you only use the corner of the bag, and so that means that only the top half of the bag, as you might see here, is going to get, only the bottom half of the bag is going to get used. You can see the part with the seam, and so there's this whole top. That doesn't need to get thrown away, and we thought, what do we use that for? Well, what can it become? You sort of have to get that imagination going. And if you slit it there, you have a whole long piece of essentially cordage. And I went, well, why not tie each one of these pieces end to end and eventually end up with sort of a big old long string here, and it's almost like bed sheets tied together. But what we're doing with it is weaving a little mat, and it's a really kind of a fun way to occupy yourself, and it's very, very basic. Obviously, top and bottom, there's a sort of a rod, and it's weighted. We didn't have anything heavy, so we used the flour mill there, and it seems to work okay. It's just the simple in and out, over and under. It's called tabby weave, if you're not familiar with it. And this is how the basics of fabric are made. And tried to be one of those people that got into yarn to try and get creative about clothing, and not so good with knitting needles. And so we tried crocheting. I'm not good at crocheting, but what we did find a little bit of an affinity for was weaving. And, there's all sorts of fanciness that you can get involved with in weaving, from different equipment and setups and things like that. We just made our own. I made a simple rigid heddle tabletop loom, and I make scarves and things like that, but that's where I learned how to do this basic over and under stuff. And there's a lot of little tiny things that you're going to want to know about, keeping things taut and even. One thing that'll happen is weaving tends to pull in, and so you'll see it get tighter and tighter and tighter, and you want to try to avoid that by giving a bit of extra on the ends there. But as this goes, it'll try to tighten itself up a little bit, and see, it keeps pulling and pulling. And obviously this whole big mess here is a big old mess, and so you want to try to keep that into a little ball that you roll everything up around, so that when it passes through, over and under, over and under, and over and under, it's not a big old tangled mess, and it hangs up on everything. And these are tricky enough to try to find the back side of, as you can see. I've never worked with this as material before, but you could use all sorts of different things that you have lying around. Obviously, plastic bags are a really, really popular one to make stuff with, and I've made a little placemat out of shopping bags. Of course, that's a really easy one to do, shopping bags, but we have these tops of these bags, and I thought, why the heck not do something productive with them, rather than, see them go to a landfill or get thrown away or have to spend the energy on recycling somehow. I got that the wrong way, don't I? No, that's right. You get hung up there. And little things like this you would call the butterfly, where you basically have it wrapped around, and you'll see it sort of makes these little butterfly wings on either side. But if you didn't have a mat to lie on, in a very short order, you can see I've already got a good foot in. Oh gosh, this is not even taking 20 minutes. The setup was a little bit of a pain just to get it right and find a place to hang it up here in the little RV trailer we stay in when we're off the road. The living room here is pretty small, but just enough room. The ceilings are 6.5 feet, so not a whole lot of space. But we always like the idea of being able to clothe yourself, to house yourself, to feed yourself, do everything for yourself and not be reliant on somebody coming along and saving you. One thing that would be handy here would be what they call a beater bar, which is a whole long stick that comes down. You don't have to use your fingers as little forks to pull these down. And there's different terms for the long and the across. You're going to be warping up your loom with these long ones, getting it set up for weaving, and the wefting is these. It's the stuff that you're running in between. And you could use different colors, white, then black, or yellow, orange, different whatever color plastic bags you might have on hand, white and black being the obvious ones. But I've seen various people talk about, oh, in an emergency situation, you could use like a length of rope to weave up a blanket or something. That's said by someone who has no clue about weaving. It takes hundreds and hundreds of feet to weave a blanket. You know, your 100-foot rope is, you got to do the math real quick. Okay, well, each one of these is 6 feet long. Okay, well, how many do you need in order for it to be a solid piece of rope? Well, the rope's only a ½ an inch wide, so start doing the math on, you know, when you want a 4-foot width, times 2, you know, is how many, and times 2 the inches, of course. So it's just kind of crazy to think, oh yeah, we're going to weave up a blanket out of a rope. No, not out of one rope. You're going to need a lot of rope. And so kind of having a little bit of pre-planning and stopping and thinking, oh, okay, how wide is my material? It's, you know, 1/8 of an inch wide, so how many vertical is it going to take to fill in, you know, this way? How many is it going to take to fill in this way? And start doing that math. And it's, you know, just basic addition, subtraction, and multiplication, division. You know, you're not going to have to get into exponents or matrices or any algebraic stuff. But it stimulates the mind in that way. And so this sort of keeps the mind active. That's why, you know, as an older person or a homeless person or a disabled person where you don't have a lot you can really do, you know, my back can only handle about a good hour of this kind of stuff before I need to take a good long break, preferably for the rest of the day. But no matter how long it takes, you can always come back to it and work on it a little more and work on it a little more, especially if the material's free. You can come up with it pretty easily on hand like this. Got a whole roll of plastic bags I can still work with. But we'll probably try and, at some point here, once this is done, show you another video of the completed product and show you, you know, what you can do. Again, this costs $0. You know, we already were buying the plastic bags for the everyday toilet. And it's a really fun way to fill some time and do something productive for yourself. And you never know, somebody might want one of these that you make, and you could either sell it or donate it, or just make some of these ground a little less hard to lie on somewhere, even if it's just a neighbor or a local homeless person. But I think it's time to get on to the next sort of ball here. We're running out of material. So I want to thank you so much for joining us this time. We'll see you next time here when we talk about the finished product here off the road as we do a little recycling weaving project.